It's
You want me
okay.
to
I
go
think
ahead
we
and,
will learn. We can learn that later after the meeting.
good idea.
I think for today, let's just work like this. But yes. So, Tim, I'm going to welcome Kathy and Rahma. They will introduce themselves, and then you start. And we are welcoming any questions. And feel free. You can ask in Swahili. You can ask in Swahili or English because your question will still be answered. So, Kathy and Rahma, you're welcome to start the session. Over to you.
Okay, I'll start. Hi, everybody. My name's Kathy Geraci, and I'm here on behalf of Davis UK because Richard is on vacation. Yay, Richard. So I know a little bit about what you guys discussed last time, and um, we'll see, once we see if people have questions, then we can get into um, maybe some things that Richard might not have discussed. You guys all have to help me a little bit. So I'm American and I live in Venice, Italy, and my background was in business. And I found Davis over 15 years ago to help my son. When I found the Davis methods, my son was 11. He was severely autistic, had maybe 5 or 10 vocabulary words. He was dyslexic. He had math problems. He had ADD. He was dyspraxic. Basically had a dash of everything. And I had tried so many other things to help him. And after I did Davis, he changed just so radically in all areas that I immediately started training to become a Davis facilitator. The methods have also helped my youngest daughter, who is now 23, but she had learned how to read, but she couldn't comprehend what she was reading. So I did the method with her, and that corrected her dyslexia. And I've just helped so many people, not only in Italy, but around the world. I've trained to become a specialist for the dyslexic methods. And I also am an autism supervisor and an autism workshop presenter. And while I do facilitate all the methods, just 2 days ago, I finished up a dyslexia program. I'm also very specialized in helping severely autistic non-speaking individuals. And that comes from having the experience of my son. I find these clients actually um, quite easy to work with, which generally is not the case for most people. As far as how's my son doing 15 years later, so he corrected his dyslexia, corrected his math problems, corrected his ADD, corrected his dyspraxia. Um, he's on the spectrum, but he is now a speaking individual. He's fairly independent, meaning he finished high school. He he's currently not working because he wants to go to university, and so we're still working on his. He has difficulties conversing, maintaining the speed of conversation, though he could answer questions and ask you questions. He's still a little weak in that area. But he can go out and about by himself, do all the shopping. He does a lot of sports activities on his own. He can stay home at home. And basically what I would say about him, and whether I don't know this particular group of people, if later on during this you want to get into discussing autism a little bit, but I would have never thought that my son would have ended up in an institution. But in Venice, in the year that he was born, there were 4 boys born severely autistic. And the other 3 have been in an institution starting when they were about 16 or 17 years old. So 100% this method completely kept him out of being institutionalized and being able to be an independent individual. Um, and I guess that's it for right now.
Wow, Kathy, that was very nice of you to share. Hi everyone again. If you were here last time, my name is Rahma. I'm a Davis facilitator in currently in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So I do Davis, which I did not mention last time. I do the Davis method in Swahili and English. So for any of you who wants to ask any questions in Swahili, please feel free to do so, and I will always translate it to Kathy. But I have a background in education, and I found the Davis method through reading the book Gift of Dyslexia, which I've also translated in Swahili and is available. If anyone is interested, let me know. Okay, we can start.
So if I could just say really quick, I'll just say something in case people weren't here last time, just about the Davis organization. So Davis UK and Ireland is part of um, a worldwide organization of Davis International. And we have methods for many types of neurodiversity. So Ron Davis started with dyslexia and then moved on to math problems and ADD, and as well as understood how to correct dyspraxia and dysgraphia, so handwriting problems. And during all that time, he was actually very, very interested in helping autistic individuals. So, for those of you who don't know anything about Ron Davis, he was born severely autistic and didn't speak until he was 17 years old. And he was dyslexic and he hid his dyslexia from everyone. And around the age of 37, he figured out what was causing the dyslexia and was able to correct that. And that led him to open up a reading center back in the 80s where he began to work with individuals. And what's very unique, so we have facilitators all over the world. We have different what we call hubs. So Davis UK and Ireland is a hub. All things Davis Africa actually fall also under Richard Whitehead, who was doing the talk last week. Oh, and one last thing I do want to say that I find very interesting that Richard actually asked me if I could join you tonight is I am going to Nairobi in October to do two programs in a school called Still I Rise. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but it's a school that's a certified IB school that's free for refugees. And my connection to that school is because it was started by an Italian. So it's interesting that I'm also here with all of you. It makes me quite emotional as I hear how many different countries you're all from. Just thinking of how amazing it is that so many individuals are getting helped around the world. So back to Davis. Before we ask for questions, just one of the interesting things about the way Ron Davis approached all of the neurodiversity is that he is an engineer. And so he wasn't a childhood development expert or a psychologist or a learning, an education background. And so there's a uniqueness to his perspective, not only because he himself is autistic and has a dyslexic thinking mind, but also because he approached it in a very different way. And the thing about engineers is they take something that's very complex and they almost always find a very simple solution for such a big problem. So he is also the only individual that I know of who has understood the connection between all of these learning difficulties, which has to do with the way an individual is using their mind's eye and what they're doing with their disorientation when they are solving problems, when they're bored, when they're confused. And he was able to understand probably, I don't want to say he was one of the first people to understand this type of mind, but he was probably one of the first people to actually write something about it for the general public. And now, of course, there's so many people that talk about the visual thinking and all of their gifts and all of their abilities, despite the difficulties that they have in school. And so that's something that's, I think, really unique to him. And I don't know about how it is in Africa, but I can say in Italy, what's very interesting now is they no longer diagnose someone just with one thing. Because they see that if you're dyslexic, you tend to have some issues with math, or if you have big math problems, maybe you have a little bit of reading problems, or maybe you have a dash of ADD. So it's interesting that here in Italy there is this seeing that it all comes together, yet nobody really knows why it's all connected, I think. I don't know if Rama, you want to
I
add anything?
noticed that, Kathy, I noticed that you mentioned the mind's eye. Um, and I'm sure there is a few individuals here who do not know what that is. Now, that is one of the tools we use for, let's say, focus or staying on point. Now, the interesting about the Davis is that it is not, the method is not a cure, like it is a correction. So you can go off, be disoriented, be creative, be the creative self that you are, and you can always find your way back through the tools to stay focused and understand what is around you and what you're reading and so forth.
Yes, and I would just add for anybody who is wondering what we're talking about, the mind's eye. The mind's eye is actually, this is scientifically known. So it's like right now you're all using your eyes to look at the computer or your eyes to look at an object in front of you. But if I asked all of you to imagine a small elephant on your desktop or on your table where your computer is, um, you're using your imagination, but you're actually looking at that pink elephant from a place with something. And that's what we're calling the mind's eye. And the mind's eye has kind of a natural place for itself. And then again, when we are thinking, we kind of move our mind's eye. And when we are moving our mind's eye, we're actually changing our perception with the information that's coming in from our real eyes. So to make that simple, I don't know if you've ever had an experience when you're bored, you're like listening maybe to a lecture, or you're in a meeting and you start to kind of zone out and you hear the words going in your ears, but you realize you didn't really uh, understand what was said. And you kind of go, oh, yeah, and you tune back in. So what that's basically happening is your ears are hearing the words perfectly, but your brain is perceiving them distorted or not accurately. And that has to do with, in your boredom, what you do with your mind's eye. That then changes. The mind's eye is kind of the center of your perception, actually. And so dyslexics, the book that Ron wrote is called The Gift of Dyslexia. And the gift is actually this person's type of brain is very talented at disorientating quickly and staying disorientated longer and maybe deeper, we could say, than a non-dyslexic, ADD, autistic type of brain. So it has a lot of advantages, again, in creation and problem solving, but it can get you in a lot of trouble when it comes to learning, reading, math, or staying focused if you don't know how to manage it yourself.
That is absolutely true.
I don't know if we want to see if people have questions
Okay,
before.
yes. Does anyone have a question? You can either raise your hand up or type it on the chat.
Yeah, I do see something from Claire who mentions Italian is fairly transparent compared to English. The issues of dyslexia appear very different in Italian and in English language. Yeah, I can tell you from um, my experience with clients is I've never had an Italian client not be able to read. So they all read even quite well, though they will have almost no reading comprehension. So they're rereading, and reading. or asking somebody to read for them. Whereas I have had clients in English language come to me and not be able to read. So the Italian language is what we call transparent, meaning it's spelled exactly how you say it, which we all know is English is a bit crazy, and the spelling and how it matches up with the way
Oh, we
words
can
are
agree.
pronounced. Okay, so we have a question here. What are the early signs of dyslexia in children? How is dyslexia diagnosed, and at what age can it be identified? Do you want to take it, Rama, or do you want me to talk about it?
I am not seeing the question. My screen is a little bit slow, sorry.
Okay, so the early signs of dyslexia, I'm just going to speak from what I see. My background is in business, and I've been doing this for 15 years, so I'm not an educator, maybe what they would see. But when I ask parents, this is what the questions I ask them, what their child was like when they were younger, and this is what they tell me. Could be a delay in language, could be a difficulty in following multiple instructions. So it could be you say something like to the child, could you go into the kitchen, open the drawer, and bring me the wooden spoon? And the child runs into the kitchen, comes back and says, what am I supposed to do? And you repeat it. And they go in the kitchen, they open the drawer, they run back to you, and they need the third piece. They also may be speaking, but be pronouncing words not accurately at a later age than the norm would be. They may also be, they tend to be very sensitive children. They can have, kind of their emotions are kind of up and down quite a bit. I can speak from the standpoint of my daughter. She didn't like to be read to. Like she would bring me a stack of books because I was always reading to her older sister. And then after one book, she would say, okay, I'm going to go dance now. And she's 23 years old and she is actually a professional dancer now. So, but it was very difficult for her. I don't know if she didn't like to look at the words on the page as I was reading or if the sound was actually bothering her. Don't know. There was another part to that question, but we have somebody whose name is iPhone. Do they want to ask a question?
There's another question from the same person. How is dyslexia diagnosed, and at what age can it be identified?
Well, maybe Rahma, you want to speak to what's
the
happening in your area?
well, we do work with children 8 years and over for the program, the Davis Dyslexia program. But as mentioned during the other meeting, was that there is the Early Learners program where dyslexia is worked on from preschool, year one stage before it can even take forth. I don't know if anyone can hear me or if I'm actually just going back my voice.
We're hearing you,
I can hear
Rahma.
you.
We can hear you.
I
Okay,
can
great.
tell you that in Italy, they will not
So
diagnose.
yes,
Sorry, Rama.
it is not a diagnose. The diagnose is the Dave as a facilitator. I do not diagnose. There is a screen online testing, um, which could give us an idea, and obviously the characteristics help out. But it's more of ways in to help the children, the younger children, with the tools in an earlier stage than 8 years old. But for the Davis program, it is 8 and above because they learn to use the dictionary and there's so many other tools that is helpful.
Yeah, so Claire's put up, according to the UK's Delphi definition, they can diagnose at age 7. I can tell you that that's the same for Italy. Italy usually wants to wait to towards the end of the 2nd grade in order to diagnose. They want to give them that much time. I also just want to add what's great about the Davis Young Learners Program is if you have a sibling that has dyslexia in the family, this is where I have clients who will have their the younger sibling go through the Davis Young Learners Program to prevent that child from developing dyslexia.
Yes, yes, it really does. Can we have the question from iPhone?
Just a moment. Because this comment is related to what you're explaining, ladies, Claire is saying early signs of dyslexia. We need to check any family history, antenatal and postnatal, speech and language development, and auditory issues. I think this is good to add before we move to iPhone, who is Anne Masioke.
Yes,
Anne Masioke, you're welcome.
They do play well.
Thank you so much, Caldence, and also the facilitator. I just want to know if dyslexia can be cured. Is it a disease which stays for a lifetime, or is there anything possible to help a person to be cured on the process of his or her life? That's my question.
Thank you very much. So it's more of a correction than a cure. And on the Davis side of it all, we look at dyslexia as a gift. With all the things that they can do, the dyslexic individual with their brain and all the imaging and all the imagination and the creativity that they have, it's more of a gift than it is a disease or any other negative side of it. Yes, it is difficult and it does cause some challenges. However, it can be corrected, and that's what the Davis method does.
Oh. Yeah, I just want to say
But
we
not cured.
absolutely do not see dyslexia as a disease. We see it very much as a part of neurodiversity. Been around, this way of thinking has always been around since the beginning of the human species. What we look to do is, what the Davis method does is it corrects the challenges that are coming with dyslexia while allowing you to keep your dyslexia style thinking, right? So there's a lot of incredible advantages and good things that come with this type of thinking style. And so we would not want to take those things away. And I think what's at risk when you can look at a lot of other things that help dyslexics is they're kind of trying to get them to do things in a different way. And I believe the risk in trying to be different is you can also kind of, let's say, crush the good parts of the way the person thinks, the way they problem solve, the way that they create. So what we do when we say we correct dyslexia is dyslexia, the problems of dyslexia are no longer there.
Thank you so much. Just to mention that Anne Masioke works for TBC, Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation. She's our ambassador from the media, and we know how powerful it is to have someone from the media to carry any message to the society. And we are grateful that you're here with us. Thank you for your time. So we have a hand from Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Eva, you're welcome. Eva's hand is up.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I'm Eva, and like today is my first session to attend this. I would love to learn more and more from this session, but also I'm from Tanzania and I'm a special needs teacher here. I'm dealing with children on the spectrum. I just read the question. I would love to, because I see many potential for the children who they have dyslexia, but they can learn, they can like do many things. So I would love to learn more on the strategies I can use to assist them on their learning process.
Okay. Hi, Ava. First, I'd like to say, not just with dyslexia, but what Davis has is also a program for autism. So what Ron Davis, kind of give you guys very quickly, what he discovered about his perspective on autism is that it begins with not having completely finished the phase of individuation in childhood development. So when a child is around the age of 2 is when they become fully individuated. This is when they realize they are separate from another and they start using their name or using the pronouns I and you. And an autistic individual, depending where they are on the spectrum, hasn't completed that or has a very fragile individuation or sense of self. He's able to activate that process to begin. And then what we do is we fill in missing life concepts. So what you're looking at is, as human beings, we naturally develop without thinking about, being able to see in our physical environment change, cause and effect, before and after, time, sequence, and there's many concepts that go continue on. And these individuals are missing some of these concepts or perhaps haven't developed any of these concepts. And so if you can't see, if you're looking around your world, like right now, if I were to, I don't know, let's see what I could do. If I were to change this piece of paper, an autistic individual, if they don't have the concept of change and cause and effect, they wouldn't see that. They would see two different things. So this is what's kind of closing them off in the world, and the world is very chaotic. So he was able to activate the individuation process. Then we are able to have them bring awareness of these life concepts in, and then we move on to helping them with relationship concepts and social identity. And this is not teaching social skills. This is actually giving them the 4 types of relationship concepts. And then we help them, we do some work with emotions. That's quite different than anything that's out there. It's a little bit too complex for me to get into all the details now. But that, so there might be, Ava, something that you're interested in with the autism work as well. And absolutely, my experience with my son was that everybody wanted to just work on his language and nobody wanted to help him with his dyslexia. Because when he wasn't speaking, nobody was interested in if he was reading. That's actually how I found the Davis methods, because I began studying dyslexia myself in order to help him. I don't know if that answered your question, Ava.
Yes, it does. So right now, like I would also love to learn about the Davis, all of it, so I can understand it fully.
We can put up the link to the Davis website, and I think that would be a nice browse for you to go through.
Yeah, I will also bring
Okay,
up to Richard, we did a couple months ago, we did a 2-day event where we did about a 1-hour webinar on each of the different types of methods that we have. And I believe that's up for purchase, but I don't know, maybe Richard might be willing to give you guys access to those recordings. I will let him know, because we go into a little bit more depth of each method so you could have more of an idea.
I'm just trying to put up the link here.
At the very beginning of the chat, everybody, I did put some links in.
Okay, that's great.
We have a question from, I'm going to mess up his name.
Onesmo. Dr. Onesmo, you're welcome.
Okay, Onesmo.
Thank you very much, Gaudens and the team. This is not my session as a professional, but I would like to comment on the questions mentioned because a few hours I've been chatting with the accountants about such questions being asked here about the diagnosis, the age, if it is cured or not cured. I'm sure, not I'm sure, I hope I will have a chance to give some education about such questions another time, but I can say just in summary. I'm Onesmo Petro, a psychologist, and the executive director of Mental Health Tanzania, as we deal with mental health. So dyslexia is obvious our home. Personally, I don't work with people with dyslexia. Oh, I don't have such experience. But as a psychologist, as an advocate, as a founder of Mental Health Tanzania, it's obvious our beneficiaries. So I have some idea which I want to comment on diagnosis. And as of course, as I said, I'm sure we will have full time on educating, especially Tanzanian community, about the dyslexia, because I recently came so much interested in dyslexia. So about diagnosis, the age of diagnosis, it's because dyslexia is about reading and writing. So it's obvious diagnosis will start school age. It's obvious because it's about reading and writing. When you are 1, 2, 3 years age, obvious you can't read or write. So you can't say you can diagnose the disorder because it's about reading and writing, and no a child with the 1 age or 3 age will be diagnosed. So we wait for you to go to school. And according to the DSM-5, there is no specific age, like 7 years age will be diagnosed. 10 years old you'll be diagnosed. No, it will depend on your system of education. Because for example, in Tanzania, the child goes to first class, class 1, that's what it's called, class 1, that's la kwanza, at the age of 60. So again, it is obvious that the first age you can't diagnose the child that is out that is dyslexia, because it's obvious that the first year of school starts still struggling and learning and trying this and this. So when after, at least the second year, 4th year, 5th year, and you see, no, that's a problem. Though when you see the problem the first year, I mean, standard 1, yes, standard 1, yeah, that's la kwanza. Or class 1, some people call it different names. So then there are expectations, of course, according to the country. We expect in Tanzania maybe class 1, of course, a child who starts with baby class, it's obvious that at least class 1, class 2, standard 1, standard 2, we have already started to understand to read and write. And maybe class 3, if there is a problem, it's obvious you have to check the professional to see if the child is having some issues, maybe the ADHD, maybe dyslexia, maybe autism, maybe we'll talk another time about all of disorders, but specifically we're talking about the dyslexia. So you will see in cooperation with teachers and school and parents, we understand that the child is going through a certain issue according to the age and the level of class, and then diagnosis can go to the professional, then some measure will be taken. And another question was, how do you diagnose? Again, I will explain more when I get time. So diagnosing dyslexia. Again, I'm using diagnosis. It seems as a disorder. That's another topic. But I will use the diagnosis. So if to know the person or the child is having dyslexia issue, you, as a professional, yes, you will take some not really testy, but examination kind of testing about reading, about hearing, about that is sound, writing, listening, and the other area of which they work together to make sure that it's dyslexia. Because of course, a child is different disorders affect children, including the autism, the DHD, and whatever. So you have to be keen. You have to be careful when you are diagnosing. What are you looking? Are you looking for for autism? Are you looking for dyslexia? Are you looking for DHD? Are you looking for I mean, there are so many disorders related to neurodevelopmental disorders, because also this dyslexia is about neurodevelopmental disorders. It's in the part of this neurodevelopmental disorders. So I'm not sure if I'm using professional language, but I'm trying to answer the question: how do you diagnose, and when, or what age, and how? So just a little bit to tack on someone asked the. Is it curable? Yes. Is it curable? Is it treatable? Is it manageable? Of course, some answers have been given that is not curable, is not treatable, but is managed. It's the same thing with the autism, same thing. ADHD, at least ADHD can be kind of improve more than you comparing to autism and what other neurodevelopmental disorders. So yeah, it's manageable. It's manageable. You use different techniques as Devsi doing, trying different ways to manage, to help, to support. In leading, last week we had someone having dyslexia for a long time and has now went to university, graduated, something like that. And the first speakers just given a very good, you know, experience from a child, how she was heavily affected with dyslexia, and she has improved. You can, as you could hear. So there are some improvements you can, using professionals and techniques and whatever, a child can develop and can improve and be a better comparing to when he's diagnosed. Yes,
Thank
and
you.
anyway, as I said, I will give another session to explain more. Thank you very much, and talk
Thank
to
you.
you
Thank you.
another time.
Thank you
Thank
to
you, Onesmo.
Dr. Onesmo. Now, there's a question on the chat from Fatma. Is it Fatma? No? Yes? There's a question from Fatma about diet. I have seen mostly on social media talking about detox to kids on the spectrum. Does it work? And if yes, what would you recommend? There's this question on the chat.
Yes,
I've never heard about that.
yeah, I did a lot of that with my son, as well as many people that I know who have severely autistic children. It didn't give him any improvements, nor did it help anyone that I know. It also, in my opinion, it was very expensive and very stressful. So this has been around. I don't know how things are on your continent, but this is something that's been going on in the United States and the UK for 25 plus years. So I guess what I would say was if this was the solution, it would be not something that's just rolling around on social media. It would be something that scientifically we're being asked to do with all of our children from both doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists. Personally, I believe the person who has understood autism the best is actually Ron Davis's perspective. And that's where without going into everything I did with my son, I did so many different methods and therapies and saw experts in Italy and experts in the US. And the only thing that helped him was actually the Davis methods. And I want to thank Onesmo for explaining everything in Africa about diagnosis. I would just like to say that um, when I was training to become a Davis facilitator, I discovered that I'm dyslexic, have math problems, and ADD. And I have 2 degrees from university. And I was a very good student because I studied a lot, a lot. And when I got to, I had very high grades in high school, and when I got to university, so I went to university in America, and we were on a 4-point system. So the highest grade would be a 4, a just passing grade would be a 2. So my average when I graduated from university was a 3, but I had classes that I had 4s in, and I had classes that I had 2s in. And I never understood why, because I studied equally. And because my overall average was okay, because it was in the 80s and it was really easy to get a job in the United States, I didn't really think about it. And I love to read. But when I found out while I was training that I am dyslexic, it then explained what was going on. So, as all of you, I'm guessing that many of you are professionals and you're mentors or you're in the education system. 100% believe in diagnosis, but I also do want to say if you're in an area or in a situation where it's very difficult for that to happen, or someone, I don't know how it works in your countries, can't afford to get a diagnosis, certainly the Davis methods are going to be able to help whether or not you have a diagnosis. So if you're having difficulties reading or with math or difficulties focusing, and it is a place that you can start right away.
That is absolutely true.
Thank you for
We
sharing
have a
your
question
personal
from Vincent.
experience. I see Dr. Vincent has a hand up. Could we give him a chance to speak?
Yeah. Thank you, Codens. And thank you, Kathy, Rakma, and all those who are sending their comments in the chat. They are very helpful in this discussion. So I'll just echo on some few points that have been mentioned within the chat, and as well as what Kathy and Rakma have put across to us, and what Carol has said about the foundation in as far as lower primary is concerned. It's tricky actually to, at one point, do the diagnosis and say that at this age, a child has a difference in terms of phonological awareness or reading digraph or identifying the sounds or recognizing some of the numeracies and so forth. Because you need to run a lot of tests, and at one point you need to seek intervention from external agencies. That is the maybe neuroeducational psychologist or educational psychologist, so that they can come up with and they can run other tests apart from the ones that you have in school. For instance, if you are using something that we call the GL assessments, I believe that's most of the teachers within the forum know about it, where you have the tests like the cut with the batteries, which can assist you to tell if a learner is thinking in a different ways, quantitatively, spatially, and verbal and so forth, or other GL assessment tests. And we take the different measures that are given within the GL assessments. It might not be the last point for us to say that this child has a diagnosis, because maybe the standard or the standard age, the standard age level is at this point, which is required to be at this point. We might be forced to run something else apart from the GL assessment. Like, for instance, if a child is maybe thinking within the nonverbal and is not very eloquent within the verbal area, we might be forced to run something again, which is called the WIDA. So these are tests that are found within the schools, which schools maybe have purchased, that they can assist them during their admissions. They can assist them to give them the pedagogy in as far as assisting learners in different areas of reading and so forth. However, when it reaches a point that the learner is showing some kind of not being in a position to read or recognize or identify some of the letter numbers which are required to be identified at that age level, then that is a red flag. So we need to seek for assistance, maybe from external agencies who are going maybe to tell us there are some of the factors that are making this learner not to be in a position to identify these letters or to identify these numbers and so forth. So if we get now the report from the neuroeducational psychologist or maybe educational psychologist or maybe school-based occupational therapist who can also assist us in, it needs an intervention of an interdisciplinary kind of team to be able to work with this kind of a learner. And there now comes the Davis approaches after we receive the kind of reports that we're going to get. One of the approaches that I can really recommend is the Davis approach that was also well presented, and it is also presented now by Kathy and Rahma. So this is an intervention that assists us to try to mitigate some of the challenges that might be experienced by students who have maybe been diagnosed or have been identified as having maybe dyslexic kind of characteristics and so forth. So being that I'm just echoing Carol K sentiment, and it's a key sentiment that we should be very, very, very cautious in calling or identifying or labeling learners or children as being dyslexic before running some of the school-based tests, before going and checking how this child is working within the classroom setup, before meeting the parent and having a conversation with the parent, before having your own observations so that you correlate or triangulate your data first within the school setup, and call for a multidisciplinary kind of setup so that now you can refer the child to an external agency and receive a comprehensive report from people who have been maybe authenticated to do the diagnosis and so forth. If we get the diagnosis now from them and what we have in school and correlate the two reports that we have, the school-based as well as the one that they have given us, then I believe that we can have a chance of saying, okay, fine, this child is dyslexic at this point, or in only reading ability, which is also facilitated by some of the factors in terms of concentration, focus, and so forth. Now we bring down the pedagogy that is put in place. And one of them I've just mentioned, Priya, is that the Davis strategies and so forth. So thank you, Gaudens.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent. I see an important question on the chat, my ladies. Claire is asking, I'm interested in how you are working with pre-verbal learners towards early reading skills in terms of sound and rhyme identification. Please link me to your pre-verbal methods. Thank you. Who's gonna take this?
Go ahead, Rama.
Okay. No, it's okay. I'm sure you have more experience with the 15 years.
Well, we're not, we're talking about pre-verbal learners, talking about very small children. Is that what you're interested in? Yeah, so
I don't.
we are not a program that works with
Hello, sorry. So I may have some pre-verbal learners who are coming to me with their pre-verbal owing to autism, which
okay.
you've mentioned, and things like that. And I basically say that in my dyslexia and literacy practice, that I actually cannot deal with learners who are pre-verbal. I need them to have some kind of verbal, understanding. They need to have a limited vocabulary. So I'm really interested in anything that can direct me, because I do have parents and schools who are coming to me who are saying, but this learner is pre-verbal, and I'm saying, well, I can't work with them yet. They need to work with speech and language first of all to get them to a certain level before I can work with them as a specialist. So I'm really interested that you are working with pre-verbal learners.
Okay, yes. So I totally understand from where you're coming from and what you would need to be able to work with someone. Having had my son and the individuals that I work with, and just knowing that many autistic individuals have other forms of communicating where they may never speak, just to know. So if any of you are familiar with the university MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States, which would be our best university to go for sciences, they've just accepted their first non-speaking autistic individual who will start university in September. He's a speller. So what I would say, Claire, is I work immediately with these individuals visually, teaching them language just by seeing how the word is spelled. And with my son, which was very interesting, is he would begin to speak at speech therapy. Sometimes the cards of the objects, so she was trying to have them, let's say, repeat, I don't know, milk, chair, ball. And some of the words she was showing him had the word, the images she was showing him had the word. Some of the cards had the word on it and some did not. And I very quickly realized that he was learning to speak with the cards that had the word on it. Why that is, I have no idea. Other than I can tell you that often these individuals are actually, whether we realize it or not, they've actually noticed written symbols, math symbols, letters, shapes. They've had a hyper awareness of that, whether anybody noticed that that's what they were looking at or not. So I would say that I would just start teaching someone to read and comprehend, even if they can't actually say the words out loud. That's what I do with the clients because um, the thing about it is that we firmly believe that all autistic individuals are highly, highly intelligent, even someone who's severely autistic. So I'm very interested not only in using the method to activate individuation and for them to fill in missing concepts, but I want the parent to immediately begin developing their intelligence. And I believe you can learn how to read even if you can't read out loud. And that's what I see. I will even start teaching these individuals math without them needing to speak. So, maybe it's something, Claire, we could connect and discuss further. But I'm just very enthusiastic about not putting a limit on anyone and whether or not they have a diagnosis or don't have a diagnosis. I mean, there's just so many stories, everyone, of people who should not have learned, should not have spoken, should not have learned how to read, who do and have become, very important people for the world, whether it be in business or in science or in many, many professions. There's so many stories out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm really interested in that. Could you please send me some links to some of that work? That would be brilliant. Thank you so much.
Beauty of the Davis method is that it starts with the alphabets, breaking down the alphabets as symbols and how they sound like and what they look like. And I feel like the mastery of it and putting that into the chunks that it is, starting with each alphabet and understanding each formation and understanding the sound. It is a great start for nonverbal and the children who are starting or find it difficult.
Thank you, Rahma. And we suddenly have only 3 minutes. And with some more questions on the chat, I would like us to be very fast because this is our second session. You seem to be doing very well. There are more questions coming in. I see someone from Nigeria asking for the course, the Davis course. Rahma, I think you should just put your number on the chat and connect her to Richard, because you said Richard is in charge of Africa. Is that okay? He spoke about the course that is happening last week.
Richard is in charge of Africa, and if there is anyone in that area, you can find them in the facilitator directory on the website, which would tell you the countries and the facilitators. However, I'm sure Kathy does it online, and I also do it online as well.
Then you can assist.
Sorry, Kathy, do you do it online?
Sorry, I just zoned out because I was typing in. Do I do what online? Sorry. I was typing in my email before.
Do you program online? Do you take clients online?
Yes, I do clients online, and I tried to respond for Claire. I popped my email so that I can, when I think of some of these individuals, I could send them to you. And there was
thank you.
Upindo, I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correct. Definitely, I put in the chat the Davis UK website. I also put in my email, but definitely the Davis methods will help your non-verbal,
Yes.
There's someone requesting you specifically, Kathy, to shed some light on the short-term working memory. It says, I don't know if you want to take this, Claire. This is Vincent. Could you please shed some light on the correlation between short-term working memory and the processing speed, and how best can a GT or SEN teacher assist in mitigating them in a child with dyslexia? Are you able to say something quickly, Kathy?
Very, very quickly. Short-term working memory is how we receive information. We receive it through our ears, through our eyes, through all our senses, so that it can be processed in. And then what we do is, if there's anything, because we're receiving thousands of messages every minute, every 30 minutes. And what we do is we say, oh, I want to remember this one. So we have strategies to manipulate this information in our short-term memory so that we can then process it into our long-term memory. And so the long-term memory is the second part. It can get stuck there. So short-term memory is all about how we're processing information and maybe manipulating it to keep it. Then the second part is we want to bring it back when we need to, and that is called processing speed. How quickly can we actually bring the information back that has been held in our long-term memory? That's processing speed. And so that's a different part of diagnosing learning issues. The first part is working memory. The second part is how quickly can we bring it back into to retrieve it. And for many of us, if we have inefficiencies in processing speed, it means we require more times to retrieve the information from long-term memory. The more times we retrieve information from long-term memory, the quicker it will take to retrieve it. So there are two aspects to learning. First is inputting, and the second put is retrieval. And for many of the learners that I work with, both those processes are inefficient. The first process, I have to input in a multisensory way as many times as possible to make it as engaging as possible. In the second process, I have to retrieve in as many ways as possible. So we use multisensory. Excuse me. We use multisensory as often as possible so that I can make it more fluent, the process to actually remembering, recording, coming up with that information. So it's a process. It's a long process for those of us who have inefficiencies, either in working memory or in processing speed or in both. I hope that sheds some light. There are two aspects to it.
Can I just say something? That was excellent explanation, Claire. I just want to, we don't have time, but I just want to throw in with the Davis methods, working memory is corrected. It's functioning fine after programs. That has to do with the input because something is happening again with the mind's eye and the perception. Things aren't coming input accurately, and they're coming in inputted many different ways, and also with missing concepts. So when you start to fill in missing concepts of cause and effect, sequence and time, order, disorder, it starts to allow the input that's coming in being filed correctly in a person's mind, and then the retrieval is much faster. So that's just kind of a tiny little bit of what we actually do, but it is truly fascinating, Davis's perspective on all of this. And as we're running out of time, I just want to say to everybody, like all of you on your journey with working with these individuals, you guys are all special, really special people. And I definitely think exploring, I think what's important is that these individuals get help and that we see them as capable and intelligent. And in your journeys, I really do hope you check out and learn more about Ron Davis's perspective, about his theory. So then whether or not that is actually something you're using to help these individuals, he has a very unique perspective on all of neurodiversity, which just can become something as part of your toolbox and the way that you understand these individuals further.
Indeed, he does. Thank you,
It's 5
everybody.
minutes past our time, but I wanted to say something. If anyone is in the platform and you're not in our support group, please join. I put my number. I put a number on the chat. I'm putting it again, and it will be very helpful to have these conversations going on. You see, we are doing this for the second time, but still there are more and more questions. There's need for time. So this is why we normally meet every Tuesday. Don't miss, please.
Tuesday, yes.
So that you can continue learning. Learning never ends, okay? You need to brush your knowledge. I'm putting the number on the chat. And then, I don't know if any of you is attending the Dyslexia Rising Africa conference in Nairobi next week. If you're attending, please look for me. I'm going to attend. We are participating. We are part of the partners participating in the conference, and it will be amazing to sharpen our tools. We will learn from people. We can also share something with them. Finally, I'm grateful to you, Rahma. You've been amazing for the second time you're here with us today. And Kathy, that was
Thank you
very,
very much.
You shared even your personal experience. This is something we don't take it for granted, because you again doing this voluntarily. We are not able to pay you as Dyslexia Tanzania, so we appreciate your support. I'm going to give each of you a minute to give your last words before we call it an evening. You're welcome, Rahma.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. For the people who are here for the second time, I will organize something with Candace to talk about Kipaji cha Dyslexia, which is the gift of dyslexia in Swahili, the book which is out. So if you have any questions in Swahili, or if you would like just, to browse through it with me, we will arrange that in the future. Kathy.
I think I kind of gave a closing comment already. Thank you for having me. It was very eye-opening for me as someone who I believe is going to be very connected to this continent. As I say, I'm going to a school in Nairobi and at the end of October. I did put my email there, especially for anybody who wants any more information on autism and nonverbal autism. And maybe I'll pop in if I'm allowed. I might pop in not to speak, but to some of these meetings, because I find it incredible that you guys are connecting.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so
Rahma's
much.
book is right here with me in my office. If any of you want to study this book, Kipaji cha Dyslexia, Rahma translated it. She did an amazing job. It's the same book in English, The Gift of Dyslexia. If anyone needs it, please just look for me. And thank you so much once again, everyone who joined this evening. Don't miss next Tuesday. And we are going to upload this session on our YouTube channel so that you can get it again in case someone missed and you need them to learn. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Caro. Caro joined our support group. That was important. You've been giving very valid points. Join. Are you there?
I'm in the support group already.
Bring more teachers. We need to learn and help our children. We don't need to stigmatize them.
Okay, I will.
Thank you so much.